Once again, thank you all for being here today on a very special Sunday. Those of you who have been a part of Hope Community Church for a while now, you know that we're very intentional about being active in our community. That word community is right in our title, isn't it? Hope Community Church. And so we pay attention to what's going on in our neighborhood. We pay attention to what's happening in our little piece of geography. And we want to be a force for good. We want to be a light in this world. We want to help the people who are in need right here at home. At the same time, we don't want to turn a blind eye to the greater needs around the world. And so before Hope launched in the summer of 2012, God laid it on my heart that we really needed to have some kind of point on the globe where there's a greater need that we could be a part of helping, a part of serving, a part of helping create some solutions for a greater problem around the world. And so before I even earnestly began to seek for an opportunity, God presented us with the solution. He presented us as a church with this wonderful, amazing ministry, wonderful organization called Start With One Kenya. And so because this organization exists, we, this little church in Ridley Park that meets in this theater, we're able to have a little impact somewhere else in the globe, an impact in Kenya. This morning, this is kind of a big deal for our church, isn't it? This morning, we have with us as our guest speaker none other than the founder of this amazing, life-transforming ministry. And so will you please join me in welcoming Mr. Bill Coble, founder of Start With One Kenya.
Thank you, brother. How does anybody follow that? I'm just a guy from North Carolina that God has called to be in missions and ministry around the world. And actually, I'm the honored one to be in your presence today to share a little bit of what God is doing in me, through me, and in you and through you by your teams that come. It's an amazing thing to be in ministry into the world. And so I just want to share a little bit about what we're doing, but also want to share a little bit more about what God means to me. Because we're all on a journey together. Sometimes feels like some of us are taking left turns and right turns and all that, but we're on a journey together. I want to start off with a quick story about the great detective Sherlock Holmes. Who here doesn't know who he is? Good, I'm glad to hear that. So the great detective Sherlock Holmes and his trusty sidekick named Watson, a couple of you know him, were on a camping trip. In the middle of the camping trip of the night, Sherlock Holmes rolled over and he nudges Watson. And he said, "Are you awake?" And Watson just goes, "I am now. What do you want?" He goes, "Watson, look up and tell me what you see." And Watson said, "Well," he gazed into the heavens and he said, didn't know what in the world Sherlock was wanting, but he says, "Meteorologically, I would say that it looks like we're going to have clear skies and it's going to be beautiful tomorrow." He said, "Astrologically speaking, Sagittarius and Aquarius, they're doing some funky stuff up there. I'm not sure what that's all about." He said, "Philosophically speaking, it would be harder to count all of the stars than it would be to count the grains of sand on the beach. And theologically speaking, wow, God is really big." And Watson paused and wanted to hear something from Sherlock, and he didn't hear anything, and so he said, "Sherlock, what do you see?" And Sherlock said, "What I see is that above us, someone stole our tent in the middle of the night, and I want to know who took it." You see, I say that to kind of illustrate something, that I think we completely make things more complicated than they need to be. I mean, think of Christmas. I think of the Christmases past where it was all about having to do this and to do that and to check this name off the list and what am I going to get my mother and what am I going to get my brother and it just has gotten so complicated when I don't think it's supposed to be that way. I don't think it was that complicated on that first Christmas morning. I think of Scripture when the Pharisees come to Jesus and say, "Jesus," and trying to trap him into something, "tell us what the greatest commandments are." And he went the simple route. He said, "Love God, love your neighbor." It's quite simple. You see, I think that the trappings of church, the trappings of of what happens in society and the trappings of this world has got us into this whirlwind of complexity and schedules and all these things that we're supposed to do. But I think it's supposed to be more simple than that. So I found myself in the middle of those trappings and struggle even today to try to find the simple route to love God and to love neighbor. And how do we do that? I found myself, I was in youth ministry for 25 years, and I was serving a church in North Carolina. As you might be able to tell by my accent, I'm not from North Pennsylvania, but I am from the North Carolina. But I found myself in those trappings of a world that was going crazy in a church that was making things so complicated, and I found myself having to get away. So I grabbed a new devotional book that I had just received at a missions conference, and I grabbed my Bible, got in my car, and went off to the local reservoir and just to find some peace and just to get away. And I took a moment just to say, God, whatever it is you want to say to me today, I'm listening. I wish as I told someone else, that day ruined my life. But let me tell you why and how. So I opened up the devotional book, and the preface of the book had this little square grayed box with some questions in it. And I don't truly remember every single question, so I can't quote it properly, but it had questions like this. If God had you on an unholy adventure, what would it be? Well, let me backtrack in time a little bit. I'd just gotten off a trip to Kenya. And that trip, God had told me, this is going to become your home. No! This is not going to be my home. That's the last place in the world I would ever want to be. I'll go and visit. I'll go to do some nice things. But it's not going to become home. This is my home. And so the next couple of questions led to me, what is stopping you from following God's call in your life to do what He's wanting you to do? Again, I screamed of, no. And so I put that book down because I wasn't enjoying where that was heading. So I opened up my Bible. And my Bible has different places in it that are well worn, places that I continue to go to throughout life. So it just naturally opens up to it. So it just naturally opened up to the book of Deuteronomy. Not a place where a lot of people think that it's going to naturally open up to. In mine, it does. Deuteronomy 6:5. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. That day, someone played a dirty trick. I think his name starts with G, and his last initial is D, and there's an O in the middle there somewhere. God showed me something that I'd never seen. He showed me a word that is probably the most powerful word that I've ever experienced in my life. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. Let me back up. It didn't say all your mind. That comes in the New Testament. All your strength. That day, it seemed like someone had taken a highlighter and circled and put huge arrows pointing to this little word, all. All. Don't give God just a piece of this and a portion of that, or when it's convenient, but that's what this confused world has got us doing. He's got us, worried about checking off the lists on Christmas and worried about this and that, and got it so complicated, we don't have time to give God all. Love God, love neighbor. It's simple, but yet somehow we've gotten that very confused. I looked up in the dictionary for synonyms of all, and I came up with a short list. If I can find it real quick. Well, maybe I can't. But you think about all of the words that connotate all. I think of things like the whole enchilada means all. Or just imagine if I could have it all. We've got that little word so confused. And so I got on my knees that day with tears in my eyes. I said, I don't know what all looks like. I don't think I understand. So Lord, if you will take me and use me, and I'll do my best to give all. Whatever it is you want, I'll do it. Please tell me what it's going to be. And he said, just trust me. Didn't like that word either. Don't want to have to trust, and I don't want to have to give all, but I was all in. I share these things with you because I think this is not about all of us becoming missionaries in Kenya, because as I come to churches and speak, this is not about Kenya. This is about what God has called us to do as human beings, as His creation in this world, to love Him with everything that we've got. Everything. And I wanted to kind of look at what that looks like just a second. When you hear to love Him with all of your heart, what does that mean to you? Well, to me, to love someone with your heart is to love Him with your feelings, with your emotions, with the things that expresses from within where we are. To love God with all your heart means you don't hold things back. You don't hold those feelings of love for Him. To love Him with all your soul. Well, your soul, I think, is where you decide. Some people think it's up here. I don't. I think it's in your soul. It's where decisions are made in your life. And it's through that you take the feelings and you're able to decide and to put things into action. So you love Him with all of your soul. And then to love Him with your mind. This is where you think. And this is where you have inputs into who you are. That's where what you see on the internet and what you watch on TV and what you listen to kind of invades who we are and who we've been created to be. Some people think that you're supposed to stop thinking when you walk through the front door of a church. I think it's quite the opposite. Because I think we think about what we do. And God wants all of our mind, not just a portion of it. And to love Him with all of our strength. I think that's our action. And everything that we do in the world, it should be showing that we love God and we love others. And that's kind of simple. If we could just start showing people that we love them, and it's not about the Christmas present under the tree, and it's not about what we're putting on Facebook, and it's not about this and that and the complexity that we've created, then all of a sudden, the world starts to open up to you. All of a sudden, I start to realize that our organization is called Start With One, and maybe it started here, but it's not going to end there. That God can use every single one of you in this room, and every neighbor that you have, and every family member you have, to do something that will glorify Him. Because if it is about loving God and loving neighbor, it's that simple. We just got to start doing it. We've got to start talking about it and somehow find a way to make those things active in our lives. Because it's not about an hour on Sunday morning. We can't do it in an hour because it requires us doing it on a day-by-day basis, a moment-by-moment throughout our lives. And so I just wanted to share just a quick part of my testimony because it's not about me. Because I think every one of us struggle with the same issues of life. About how much that we can do, and there's so much that I'm responsible for, and how in the world did we get it so confused when that's really not what God had intended. And so for me, at 9 months after that day at the lake, I moved to Kenya full time. And have been blessed beyond measure to have people like you guys that have come to visit, and for those that will come this next summer, to see lives changed over in Kenya to families that don't have, to see them have something that they can never imagine, and to see lives of people back home changed. I want to roll a quick video to give you a little bit of a glimpse of something that God has given us, and we're going to use it to every ability that we can to glorify Him. Some people have asked me, well, how does clean water relate to Jesus Christ? Well, Jesus is the water of life. Without water, we die. We named this product Uzima because that's the Swahili word for life. It's been amazing to be on a journey like that, to be able to go to places and alleviate what's killing most children in this world. They say that a child dies every 20 seconds in this world because of dirty water. That's ridiculous. There's no reason for that whatsoever. I've always heard, and I've always questioned, when I meet God, I want to ask Him about this one. It's like I've always heard that God will never give you more than you can handle. There have been times in my life I'm thinking He's crazy because I can't handle certain things. But I believe that where He has us now, He's given us what we can handle. Because when Start With One was founded, and I realized the numbers of those that are dying and the numbers that are illiterate and the numbers are just overwhelming. And I'm just one person. How in the world are we going to make a difference in this world? And I couldn't handle much more than just that. And I realized the story of the little boy on the beach. After a storm had washed up all of these starfish onto the beach, and he was frantically throwing these starfish fast as he could back in the water. And this old man comes up to him and said, "Son, what are you doing?" And he says, "I'm trying to save all these starfish. Come on, help me." And the man said, "You can't make a difference. Look, as far as I can see, there are these starfish. You can't do it all." And a little defeated, he kind of stopped, and he looked down at his feet, and he picked up a starfish. And he looked at it in his hands and looked at the old man. And he threw it back in the water and said, "But I made a difference to that one." And it was from that story that Start With One started, and I couldn't have handled the thought of changing the world through us then, because I couldn't handle it then. But God has given us, I think, the technology and the drive, and now just trying to find the connections to be able to change the world just through clean water. And in the midst of that, God is going to be glorified, and God is going to start to realize, or people are going to start to realize, this is from Him. And so we're excited to be able to share with you today the opportunity to be a part of that. You know, it's been kind of crazy over the past 7 years seeing women like this walking miles for this dirty water and drinking it and realizing that that's getting them sick and they don't know it. And our organization's small. He makes it sound like we're a lot bigger than we are. You're seeing half of the organization, and the other half is at Norwood, and that's it. We do have a board here in the United States, and we have some great friends and part of us in Kenya, but we're the David and the Goliath, and we're not the Goliath. But yet God has given us this to do something that's an amazing thing. I wish I could demonstrate it for you today. I bring in dirty water. It's kind of hard to find here in the United States. But it'll take this dirty water, and you saw the buckets. You know, it's really cool. She said in the video, if they could see it being turned to clean water, they would believe us that we're not lying. Well, so I was like, why don't we just show it to them? And so we've created this clear version that we can show as a demonstration, so they can see their dirty water in the top, and it comes through. It's clear, and we do drink it before they do because we believe, we know that it'll work. And that transformation from dirty to clean is starting to change their mentality. But the biggest problem I've seen, and this is, Josh and I were talking about this before the service, how do you change a community? How will Hope Community Church change this community? It's not by going to every fifth house. It's about saturating this area with the love of Jesus. It's about letting everyone know that you are here and they are welcome. It is about changing the community as a whole, not just a few people. And yes, it may be one starfish at a time. It starts with that. But how are we going to use this clean filter in Kenya to truly transform? Because the way the world has really been doing it is they would go in, and this is the way we've been doing it as well until now. We've been going into a community with 50, 100 filters, something like that. They have 5,000 people. We obviously don't have enough money or resources to be able to take care of everybody. But we would have the village elders select those that were going to be blessed with having clean water, and we would give them the filters that we were using. And then we would leave, and we'd be praying about that area, and sometimes we would go back multiple times, but never have we gone into an area and covered the area completely. So that all of a sudden, in one day, everyone had clean water. That was the vision God gave me. It's like, that's impossible. We can't do that. The one area that I'm thinking about has 50,000 people in it. We can't do that. Okay, maybe not in one day. So we started praying about this, and this has been on our prayer list for over 2 years. This filter has been in development for over 4 years, and we just launched it this July. But what we found is that if we take this one area in Kenya, and with 45,000, 50,000 people that live there, and every household gets a filter, what would happen? What would happen in the churches? What would happen in the hospitals that all of a sudden don't have people? The schools would be overflowing with children because they're no longer sick. Life would transform, and life would become what God intended it to be. And so that's what we're going to do. It's now possible. What we have been using in years past cost us $60 each. We're selling these filters at $30 each. So we've cut our costs in half. We did the math on this one region that we're trying to do this next summer, and it'll cost us $300,000 to make it happen. And I was like, that's more money than I've ever raised at any time ever. But yet God has started to open up a door. First people we shared this vision with, they said, we'll do half. Whoa. If you go find the other half. And so we have one church on Christmas Eve, one night. Their goal is to raise $150,000. But it's going to take the other churches, the other individuals, the other organizations to come alongside with that to create the change. And so that's my Advent conspiracy. I want everything to go to this one project, because I think if this happens, it may be the first time in the world this has ever happened, that churches have come together to transform completely a whole area. Churches have been doing some wonderful things, and organizations have been doing some wonderful things, but to truly say where we can take a map and we can take a little colored pencil and we can color in that part of the map and say, you know what, that's done. We don't have to go back there again. We go to the next place and the next place and the next place, and so that's the plan. And we just invite you to share this with others, to reach out into the community for people that might be interested to be a part of a change. I'm always one of those people that I want to be a part of something that's successful. I want to be a part of something that's bigger than me. Well, guess what? You're here today, and this is bigger than you. Not just this. I'm talking about what you're doing in this community. And I would just challenge you to be a part of the vision that Joshua R. Schaefer has shared with you. We joke about that in Kenya. I think that God has something really incredibly planned for you guys. And as I said at the very beginning, I feel like I'm humbled to be here in your presence, because you are the people of God in this place. And I just hopefully that maybe through the work that we do, we might be able to start to rethink how we do things, both here and abroad. And that's just kind of how it is. So I'm going to throw this challenge out at you, and it's part of this video, but I'll just kind of explain it to you just in brief. There's another church that's going to raise $150,000. and it'll match everything that you can throw at them. What can you do? Let's make a difference in this world this year. So we've called this campaign 4 Times Life because we've cut our costs in half from $60 to $30, and now there's someone willing to match what you do dollar for dollar, up to $150,000. So this is 4 Times Life. But I mean, just to kind of close a little bit, uzimafilters.org is the name of the website for the filter company. We separated Start With One from Uzima because we realized that the filter is much bigger than us. And so we created as another nonprofit because we felt like most of the people that are trying to do clean water things in the world are doing it for profit. And I just have a hard time with us trying to make money on the poor. And so we've created that as a nonprofit as well. And our hope is that we'll make money. And as we make money, we'll start giving it away. Because I think that's what God will have us do.